Hello, fellow truth seekers. This is Haseen from noisehound.com. And if you're like me, you're stuck inside today, self-quarantining from coronavirus. Yes, life has been disrupted from toilet paper shortages to the economy to social distancing. Our lives have definitely been impacted around the globe by coronavirus. So how did we get here? Where did the coronavirus come from? There's certainly no shortage of conspiracies out there, ranging from biological weapons to man-made viruses that have gotten out. So the consensus of the world scientific community is that the coronavirus originated in a wet market in Wuhan, China.
If coronavirus is the disease X the world has been fearing, then it possibly began somewhere like this, among a colony of bats.
There's sleeping time bombs across the region right now.
And then somehow the virus almost certainly crossed over to humans at so-called wet markets. These are places all over Asia, but particularly China, where wild animals are slaughtered on site and sold for food. How was this virus born? What was the mechanism that gave birth to it?
Probably a zoonotic jump, that is from a small mammal, likely reared or captured at least for food consumption. The reservoir appears to be a bat.
So how really can it spread from a bat to humans, and how are wet markets involved?
I'm with Stephen Galston, an environmental and human rights investigator based in Thailand. At least we've got the lenses in the backpack, right? We're getting ready for an undercover operation using secret cameras. So this should work quite well for us. This just all tucks away in here. Our target, an illegal wildlife market in Bangkok. Places like this, and so-called wet markets, where wild animals are sold for food, are where coronavirus first jumped from animals to humans. So in viral terms, these things are really living petri dishes, aren't they?
Yeah, there's sleeping time bombs across the region right now.
Stopping the zoonotic jump at source is of course critical.
In Hong Kong, Professor Gabriel Leung is at the center of the scientific fight against coronavirus. A fight that began at a wildlife market in Wuhan, China. Does the virus transmit into humans through people eating these animals or just handling them?
Probably the highest risk during the handling process, where you have animals under stress, therefore their immune system is down, and then through the handling process, including slaughter, that's when the highest risk of jumping from animal to humans would have occurred.
Experts aren't certain, but the suspicion is that in Wuhan, coronavirus crossed to humans from the most trafficked wild animal in the world, the pangolin.
Pangolins have been high on the menu for a while. Whatever it was an animal. It jumped from an animal to a person. It's a wild animal that's been taken out of its natural environment, consumed in some way, come into contact with people in an unnatural way. That's the lesson here.
Do you find it mystifying that you can have a grandparent dying in an aged care home in Sydney from an animal that was sold in a market in China?
Yeah. No, it's incredible. I have to say, we're not surprised because we've been working on this for years. We've been trying to warn people that, this is global.
So I'd really like to have a conversation about what our response should be when this is all said and done. Obviously, we need to follow the guidelines of the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control. We need to follow our guidelines to try to stop the spread of the virus. But when on the other side of this, when we come out on the other side of this, what should our global response be to these wet markets? How should we handle this? How should we manage this going forward? And I'd really love to hear from people around the world that have gone to these wet markets. I'd like to hear both sides. Is this something that we as Americans should be involved in, even though it has nothing to do with us? Or since this does impact us globally, do we have a right as a global community to be concerned about the wet markets going forward and to do something about it?
It is certainly more effective. So, and it's also very difficult to try to control it.
And coronavirus, or COVID-19, as the illness is now being called, spreads far more rapidly than SARS. Unchecked, as countries like China and South Korea have discovered, the infection rate becomes exponential.
The big unknown now is really how big is the iceberg?
So you're guessing there could be many, many more people.
I don't know, but I'm suspecting that.
Coronavirus has already struck over 80 countries and counting. Professor Liang's prediction for the eventual extent of the pandemic is chilling. From everything you've learned over the past weeks and months, what is your best estimate of how many people around the world could be affected by this virus?
Don't know. Everybody is susceptible. And if you assume that everybody randomly mix with each other, then eventually you will see 40, 50, 60% of the population get infected.
Wow. So has this happened before?
Health officials are trying to get a grip on an alarming outbreak of SARS.
The virus originated in mainland China and spread across the country. The disease had been festering for months in southern China.
In 2002, a coronavirus had emerged at a very similar market in southern China. It eventually reached 29 countries and killed nearly 800 people. Now, 18 years later, this coronavirus is in at least 71 countries and has already killed over 3,100 people. So what do these markets have to do with the coronavirus outbreak, and why is it happening in China? A lot of the viruses that make us sick actually originate in animals. Some of the viruses that cause the flu come from birds and pigs. HIV/AIDS comes from chimpanzees. The deadly Ebola virus likely originates in bats. And in the case of the 2019 coronavirus, there's some evidence it went from a bat to a pangolin before infecting a human. While viruses are very good at jumping between species, it's rare for a deadly one to make this journey all the way to humans. That's because it would need all these hosts to encounter each other at some point. That's where the Wuhan market comes in. It's a wet market. The kind of place where live animals are slaughtered and sold for consumption.
It was not surprise at all, and I think that it was not surprise to many scientists.
Peter Lee is a professor and expert on China's animal trade.
The cages stacked up one over another. Animals at the bottom are often soaked with all kinds of liquid animal excrement, parts, blood, or whatever the liquid they're receiving from the animals above.
That's exactly how a virus can jump from one animal to another. If that animal then comes in contact with or is consumed by a human, the virus could potentially infect them. And if the virus then spreads to other humans, it causes an outbreak. Wet markets are scattered all over the world, but the ones in China are particularly well known because they offer a wide variety of animals, including wildlife. This is a sample menu reportedly from the market in Wuhan. These animals are from all over the world, and each one has the potential to carry its own viruses to the market.
Wow. Did I see an Alaskan Malamute on the menu there? Anyhow, isn't this just a matter of cracking down on these governments, the governments that allow these wet markets in their countries? Who exactly is responsible for this? So if we were to try to get involved in trying to manage this problem, who would we pressure? Who would we work with?
Again, right here. As part of its desperate efforts to contain coronavirus, China closed over 20,000 wet markets. But wildlife markets like this are still operating with impunity across Asia, run by organized crime syndicates.
These syndicates, we know who they are. We've been following them for years, and they're still out there, and they're not going to close down business today because China, closed down Wuhan. These are like drug dealers, you make it difficult to sell drugs in one neighborhood, they're going to move to another.
Wow. It's a complex problem. No government is responsible for this. These wet markets are run by gangs and crime organizations. So what do we do about it? Do we do anything about it? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to hear from you. Folks on both sides of the issue. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What would you suggest we do when we're on the other side of this coronavirus pandemic? How should we prevent this from happening in the future? Leave your comments below, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching. Visit noisehound.com for more information, for more content.